Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill, day one of National Signing Day in the books. Now, look, we have some unresolved storylines that need to get figured out over the next 48 hours, but I think there are some pretty clear winners. There's also some pretty damn clear losers, man. And it starts with Penn State. Penn State currently has two players signed in their 2026 cycle, which is actually almost impressive because they do not have an active head coach right now. And Dill, that's an episode or that's a storyline for a different episode. I cannot remember a more poorly managed coaching search than what's taken place in Happy Valley. But we're going to focus on the winners first because there were some teams that made some moves, and it's really easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle with so many Twitter notifications over the last 12 hours. Who are some of the biggest winners? Who are some of the biggest losers? That's what we're going to get into. Open invitation to let it fly in the comment section because, look, if you are watching this episode, chances are you're probably a little bit of a sicko. You live and breathe this type of stuff. If we're sleeping on a team that had a really good signing day, let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Hey, more commitments to break down over the next 24, 48 hours. Dill, let's start with James Franklin and Virginia Tech. The T-box is yours, but I got some takes on what Virginia Tech might be over the next couple of years.
And I just look back at the previous two recruiting cycles, both kind of sitting in the mid-40s. And James Franklin, a little bit of savage, obviously pretty much just took our number one losers whole recruiting class in Penn State. So it's going to be interesting to see how he recruits Virginia Tech, maybe on its own merit, because I think there's a bit of an issue where, again, he had a lot of kids signed at Penn State who he just kind of moved over. So it'll be interesting to see going forward, but I don't see how you can't call them a winner. I mean, this is the best class they've had in quite some time. And again, a lot of Penn State kids, but yeah, he closed on it and made it a class that is building to being really competitive in the ACC.
Especially in the ACC, man. Because let's just be quite frank about it. Miami has separated themselves in this conference when it comes to talent acquisition. Like Clemson has kind of fallen off in terms of what they're doing on the talent acquisition front. Florida State should not be falling off, but they are falling off. In 3 years, could Virginia Tech be the second best talent acquisition program in this conference? I don't know if that's crazy. You make a good point. He did capitalize on Penn State's lack of confidence.
And he did. Right? He's like, "Oh, we weren't poaching from one particular school."
That's great. Did he say that? That's insane.
He said he did. He wasn't like intentionally doing it, but like,
oh yeah, okay, pal. That's criminal if he said that. By the way, which I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but nonetheless, one thing stands out to me. They're going to be a problem in the DMV, specifically in the state of Virginia. You can tell all of these flip commitments were guys that were from the state of Virginia, which is a pretty damn talented state, that were committed elsewhere, right? What was the saying that a lot of those guys had? Best in Virginia, stay in Virginia, go to Virginia Tech, right? I wonder if he can really capitalize on that because there's not. Penn State always did a really good job in the DMV when he was at Penn State. I wonder if because we're Michigan fans. I mean, they gunned after our number one wide receiver in the class and Travis Johnson and made that a hairy situation down the stretch, a legitimate hairy situation. I think you're going to see Virginia Tech. That's something they did not get right under Brent Pry. Recruit the state of Virginia. James Franklin's going to do that. Did a really good job recruiting the state of Pennsylvania when he was at Penn State. I think you're going to see him do a very similar thing at Virginia Tech. And that we know the history and culture around this program. You get a guy that can run the ship the right way. Wouldn't be surprised if you see some support there. Dill, number two, very, very obvious in my opinion, USC. Holy smokes, did they put together a class, man. Number one class in the country. You flip Caden Dixon-Wyatt this morning from Ohio State. Yeah, it sounded like you were going to be in it for Chris Henry Jr., although that doesn't sound like USC is going to be interested there. Dill, here's what it's not. Okay, to me, it's not just about the flip. Yeah, Caden Dixon-Wyatt's a very good wide receiver, good on them. The lack of drama in the month of November and December for USC. Like they have that no visit policy. Hey, you commit to USC, you don't take visits, you don't take interest from other schools. And if you're going to do that, we're going to part ways with you. And you saw USC make that difficult decision at times. They did it back with Xavier Griffin. that rule worked because, I mean, they had no drama on signing day. I mean, I know there's a little bit of a storyline here with Mark Bowman, but it sounds like that's going to get figured out. USC under Chad Bowden, man, seems like they're going to be a problem over the next couple
Yeah,
of
to
years.
keep everything they had and flip a big dog, especially at a position where, again, Lincoln Riley's always been able to recruit really good wide receivers. You probably didn't have that big time headliner to like go kind of finish your class off with that, not really lose any of your guys. A really good day. And again, it does kind of just cap off a new era maybe for this USC program in terms of how they're going to function on the recruiting stage in general. Because frankly, under Lincoln Riley, we've seen some good moments. We've also seen a lot of really big decommitments and just like a
Yeah,
lack.
that was the narrative, Dill. Like all of these fans in the summer saw USC go on the run. And
Yeah,
it's
I,
like, okay, let's
well, I was thinking the same thing. Like back when they had those Georgia kids committed, and it's like, oh well, we're shaping up well, and then it all falls apart. I was thinking like, is USC going to be able to keep it together? Because in the
sure.
past they have not been able to keep it
Yeah,
together.
they did. Right. And they have, and here's the thing. Look, Caden Dixon Wyatt's big. And I think that was a little bit more of a statement get too. Like, look, we're done letting teams come into California, come into modern day and take the guys we want. Like, we're going to go in, especially doing with Ohio State and the success they've had with wide receivers, even though Brian Hartline ain't there anymore. That was a little bit of a statement flip too, I think, from Chad Bowden, the emphasis on California. That's not the story. The storyline is what they're doing along the lines of scrimmage. I mean, Dill, in this class combined, they've had nearly double the amount of blue chip line of scrimmage commitments in this class than they've had the last 2 years combined. Look, we saw it. What was the problem with USC? They had a lot of things go well for them this year. Jaden was a lot better than many people thought he was going to be. Just weren't there along the lines of scrimmage. It's a hard, we say it all the time, hard position to get right in the portal. You want to get right on the lines of scrimmage, do it at the high school ranks. Chad Bowden's doing that at USC. You talk about a team to buy stock in over the next couple of years. Hard not to buy stock in USC. They figured it out from a front office general manager standpoint. I think Lincoln Riley is a good coach. I don't think he was a great roster manager. Well, they got a good roster manager in Chad Bowden. Dill, number 3, how about the West Coast programs like getting their stuff together? Look, if Oregon closes on Chris Henry Jr., they'll be on this list as well. And you look at USC with the number 1 class in the country. You look at Oregon with the number 2 class in the country. How about them Washington Huskies seemingly going to finish with a top 15 class in the country? Jet Fish, here's the thing. Kalen DeBoer, as good as Kalen DeBoer was at Washington, he never recruited to Washington like Washington's doing right now. I know Jet Fish is a good football coach. You give him top 15 talent. That's a problem in the Big Ten over the next couple of years.
Washington, I'm kind of with you. This, if they can stack these type of classes consistently,
Yeah,
they're going to be really good. Because you said it, like Jed Fish has always been able to punch a little bit above his weight. I
sure.
mean, just a really, really smart offensive mind, really good developer of quarterbacks. You
Hires well
can,
too, by the way. I
yeah,
think
for
he's gotten
sure.
the defense
You
coordinator
lose
right.
Bill Belichick's son or Steve Belichick, and then you go right to Ryan Walters, who's really kind of ramped up this defensive performance.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. This team, and again, it's a team that I feel like had more of an ability to Marshall Reese. Like it's a wealthy area, it's a wealthy school. Jed Fish does seem like he's kind of getting this thing rolling a little bit in making them competitive with the likes of USC and Oregon to an extent that we really haven't seen in a really long
There's
time.
some money in Seattle, right? I was just sitting out having a steak with my dad, and my dad was telling me about the companies that are based up there. Some big boy companies, some big boy money up there.
It's got to
And
get the interest.
that's what I'm saying. You start winning football games and start getting that money a little. That's what Andrew Luck's trying to do with Stanford, by the way. Now, I don't know if it works. Them nerds, I don't know if they care about football. But if you can get people interested in this program, I'm excited about Washington, man. How about a little love for John Summerall in Florida? And it's not necessarily the crazy flip commitments. It's holding on to some of their best kids in their class. I mean,
I
Davian.
don't have any issue with you keeping Florida up here because you are right. It wasn't a super exciting day. It was a boring day. That's probably what you would have wanted for this Florida team. But
Tennessee.
Tennessee is a much better winner of the signing days. Tennessee killed it today. I thought they were incredible.
Had my tabs up wrong. I had the order all jacked
That
up.
somehow doesn't surprise me. But like, I'll dive into a little bit of Tennessee. I know they lost Salisi Moa. This was like a really strong performance from Tennessee. They've marched themselves well into that top 10, pumping against the top 5 kind of class. Like, this was a big time day. Didn't lose your big dogs. Again, Salisi Moa, yeah, you lost him, but you add a couple of defensive linemen. You get Legend Bay back from Ohio State. Tennessee had a really strong day, I thought, for the most part.
Tennessee, 3 blue chip commitments, and 2 of them which are on the line of scrimmage on the defense side of the football. What they've done, I mean, they got 2 top 100 tackles committed. They got borderline, you could argue, the number 1 quarterback in Faison Brandon, the number 1 wide receiver in Tristan Keys. You got the tackles to keep your quarterback clean. Let me get the number right. 5 blue chip commitments in the front 7. I buy stock in Tennessee. I know it was not necessarily the season a lot of Vol fans wanted. Josh Heupel's doing it right. Yeah, as long as Josh Heupel's there, quarterback play is going to be good, especially with a kid like Faison. Offenses are going to score points. I ain't surprised by that. What they're doing along the lines of scrimmage and starting to look like Georgia and look like Alabama, that's the separator with Tennessee.
Building like big, deep, developed classes. Like you're not seeing these classes where, there's a bunch of really good wideouts and good quarterbacks and like good positions that expect Tennessee to be able to commit. And they pump up their ratings a little bit, so the class looks good. But if you dive under the hood, it's kind of like incomplete. I mean, these are good, complete classes that Tennessee's stacked pretty much every year since Josh Heupel's
Well, look what they were able to do on the offensive line, man. They lose, 4 out of their 5 starters from last year. And I know they dipped their toes into the portal, but some of their best offensive linemen are guys they recruited out of high school. They're getting the lines of scrimmage right. That's what stands out to me about Tennessee. Losers. We talked about Penn State, and I look, here's my take on Penn State. It's just that coaching search. They're going to end up hiring Terry Smith, I think, just promoting him to the full-time, which is, how crazy that sounds, man? Like how bad practice that is. We fired a very quality head coach in James Franklin because we wanted a shakeup. We wanted to get over the hump. We wanted something new. We're going to go promote this guy, Terry Smith's been on the staff for a decade. You're basically getting an underqualified James Franklin who's been on his staff. That makes no sense to me. I don't know why they just go out and get Brian Hartline. Say, screw it. We'll give it a shot, right?
I'm not gonna lie. I do wonder if there's like a ace up the sleeve because it's so crazy how
there's no ace. You thought they had an ace.
It's so crazy how poorly this seems like it's been handled. It almost makes me think, how could Penn State possibly not have something that's gonna like kind of shock us a little bit?
They thought they had an ace up their sleeve. I think they thought their ace was Marcus Freeman. Well, I think it was Kurt Cignetti. Then it was Marcus Freeman. I think Matt Rule was tossed around in there.
But even that, they've had a couple of months to make something happen, and I don't know.
That's the worst part about it.
We'll see. I'm kind of I'm talking myself into it as just like an observer, but I think you're right. It just does feel like this in this class. I mean, this can't happen. This can't happen to Penn State. It's really, really dark.
It's dark, man. I mean, it really is. No, but number 2, you have to go to Ohio State, right? And it sounds like they managed this not so well, right? Like Caden Dixon-Wyatt, if you followed the recruiting tea leaves, he was going to flip to USC before the Brian Hartline news even took place, right? Chris Henry Jr. finding out that his offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach is leaving Ohio State on the morning of signing day is bad practice, right?
If that's true, that does seem like bad. Because even I thought Ryan Day in his press conference said everyone's known, and they've been talking to recruits about it, and like you get a totally different message from Chris Henry Jr.
Not good. And it's also just, Brian Hartline, I'm not saying, look, I'm a Michigan guy, but got to give Ryan Day the respect he deserves. He's made some really, really good hires. In fact, I think that's, as much as we want to talk about like offense and quarterbacks, what makes Ryan Day great is he just doesn't miss on hires. We'll see if he can replace Brian Hartline because it's been such a crucial part of Ohio State's success, and you're already starting to see maybe some question marks there. Is Ohio State going to be fine?
Yeah, probably. They have Ryan Day. I mean, at the end of the day, like people are going to start talking the same way about Oregon and some other teams that are going to lose really good coaches. Yep. When you have that premier A1 coach and Ryan Day, there's no doubt about it. He is that premier A1 guy. Yeah, the thing's going to stay on the track. So the only thing that'll disrupt it is Ryan Day leaving.
I'll go to Texas real quick. They're going to push for Chris Henry, and that certainly could change the conversation. Texas loses 2 blue chip interior defensive linemen. the reason I think
Position they really needed to do well with, and they had such a good class for the most part. And they've again not even just signing but Dylan Berriman losing him back. Like they had such a good unit, and now it's like they still have James Johnson. That's awesome because James Johnson's a hammer. But this wasn't the size of the class you probably needed this year. You probably wanted a big, full interior defensive line class, and you're just not going to get it.
That's a hard position to get right in the portal. We say it all the time. I think I've already said it in this episode alone. They did a very good job last year. You know, like they did a good job addressing it in the portal with guys like Travis Shaw and Hiro Kanu and etc. I don't think Texas wants to rely on doing that every single year. And the other thing is it's freaking expensive, man. It's really expensive to go out and get those guys. Again, not bad. Still going to sign a top 10 class, potentially add Chris Henry Jr. Not great, though. The last one that concerns me is South Carolina here. And it's not, they didn't lose anybody. They were in it for Carson Baker. Sounds like Carson Baker is going to go to Texas A&M. Julian Walker, we'll see. Like
this one could flip because like we'll see what happens with Landon Duckworth and we'll see what because they land those two, him and Julian Walker. That changes the whole dynamic. That gets this thing back. Like, really good job by Shane.
I guess here's the thing. Why I'll say South Carolina. I just feels like South Carolina had a chance, man, to kind of jump levels in the SEC. You had so much momentum going back to last year, right?
Yeah,
this was the place to be. And you kind of built some momentum on the recruiting trail, but you missed some guys in the summer, and you were hoping, hey, let's put together a nice 2025 season, build on that momentum, and maybe flip some of these guys late. That gets hard to do coming off a 4-8 season, right? We'll see. I mean, Shane Beamer's going to be coaching for his job in 2026, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. I think a lot rides. And it's another frustrating part is why do we not have this offensive coordinator hired on? We've known we've had to make this hire for 3-4 weeks at this point. And now it might cost you a really talented quarterback in Landon Duckworth. All right, pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Maybe we'll do another one tomorrow night, depending on the action that we see. Big storylines to follow.
Oh, because there's some teams that are kind of out there pending that could definitely be loser. Like I look at a team like Michigan, like they don't kind of clean up their class, and there's two guys out there, and the Savion Eider one maybe sounds a little bit like the Mark Bowman situation.
Yeah,
but Zion Robinson's also out there being kicked around. Like there are some teams out there that have some guys that are kind of.
Dude, know who's the biggest is LSU. I mean, they have two of the best players in the class, arguably the best player in the class in Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson. Richard Anderson said he signed with LSU. The paperwork didn't get sent. Look, do I expect both of them to be playing at LSU? Yes, but it's like, well, what are we not doing to just get this figured out? Like that should be day one thing for Lane Kiffin. And I think he will, and there's a lot of moving parts, and I respect that. The longer that drags on, the longer you're going to have a team like Texas A&M sniffing around, or a team like Miami sniffing around.
Because Deuce Gerald is out there too, and he didn't sign.
But good point.
So there's like LSU could have a real, probably I don't want to say disaster class,
or really good, or they could sign all three of them and then go flip Jace Matthews and then add Landon Duckworth, and we're freaking rolling. I mean, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make is that there's still some work to be done for some of these.
The ink ain't dry in this sport, and when it's not dry, there's a lot of chaos there.
The ink ain't ever really dry at this point. Remember last year, Dallas Wilson signs his papers, ready to go to Eugene, pivot, Gainesville. He's a stud. It's a crazy sport that we live in. All right, we'll close it out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.